Sasson, Zecher Tzadik Libracha, now it's chronicled over that I believe he was born back in English year 1792 and passed away in 1864. He was about approximately 72 years of age at the time he passed away. He'd gone to become a great rabbi, a philanthropist, a rabbi that will donate. I think they're a family that actually are part of a rabbinic dynasty, go back for many generations. I think one of the founders of the Eastern dynasty of the Sasson family, I think known as Rothschilds of the East. He served as a treasurer inside and general of Baghdad, I think, especially during the early 1800s. And after the migration of the Jews of Baghdad to Bombay, now obviously popularly known as Mumbai, David Sasson became the leader of the Jewish community in the city. That was a very prominent position at that point in time. Let's explore a few more of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, David Sasson was born, I believe, in Baghdad, and the family, they came from a family of bankers. So they're very wealthy, let's just say, and very well-to-do. I think it was a Sheikh Sasson, Ibn Salah Sasson, lived between 1750 to 1830. So he was around the time of him. Then there was someone else called Imam Gabai, who passed away in the year 1821. Now, I think his father, Sasson, served as the chief treasury to the governor of Baghdad between the years of 1781 to 1817. So if anyone knows more information on this, it will be great to hear. He would go on to lead, let's say, the Jewish community until the year 1817. I think in his youth, he would receive a general education, especially in the Hebrew language. I think in 1808, he would go on to marry his future wife, Rabbinit Hannah. She happened to be the daughter of the Abdullah Yusuf of Basra, and the couple had 2 sons and 2 daughters. I'm not too sure what the names were, but this is what it is. I think possibly one of them was Abdullah Meir, if I'm not mistaken, or later be known as Albert. So this Albert was born, Abdullah Albert David Sasson was an industrialist, a business of the David Sasson family, the Rothschilds of the East, let's just say. So that was another one. I think more children, including Imam, also Hannah, who sadly passed away quite early, and she happened to be, I think she was married at one stage in time to Farha Chaim, if I'm not mistaken. So that's very interesting. Tradition obviously has been passed down in his family, and let's say about descendants of the royal families. Maybe there's a thought that they actually descend from David Amalek, King David. This is what I do read over here, so this is very interesting. Using, friends, the article based on Wikipedia for some of the information over here. So that is very, very interesting. I think afterwards, many of the descendants will form and help receive, let's just say, the accolades he had to have over there. Okay, now it's actually continued. Let's continue some more words of David Sasson. Really, really great person. He had huge economic success. Also, I think at that point in time there was a lot of oppression in Baghdad that actually took place, and especially from the Ottoman Sultanate. And the family would have to flee with their property to Bombay by Persia. Initially, I believe the family lived in the house of the descendants of Shmuel Yecheskel Diwaki, who happened to be a great rabbi. He was one of the most important, let's say, and leading figures of the Bnei Israel of India. I think, especially in the start of the 18th century, or in the community in the 18th century, this would have been. And then David Sasson would be involved in business in Bombay as early as 1832, and soon became one of, let's say, the wealthiest men in the city. He acted first as an intermediary between British textile companies and merchants in the Gulf, and later as an investor in valuable port properties. His main competitors were the Persian, who derived their profits from their control of the Sino-Indian IPOS trade since, I think, 1820 happened to be. And that's very, very interesting. There was Chinese market, foreign traders, for example. His company would grow with the help of someone named David Elias, who's David's son, I think, was sent to Canaan. And that's very interesting. Elias happened to be, I think, the first Jewish merchant in the region. And soon, let's say, David Sasson would turn to textile trade into, let's say, a threefold profitable business. He let's say, ported the yarn and the Indian opium to China. It's very interesting, where he brought goods that he sold in Britain, and in Lancashire, in Britain, he purchased cotton goods. Very interesting. In 1845, David Sasson and Sons opened a branch in Shanghai, which quickly became, let's say, the British franchise in Shanghai, and the company's second most important operational center over here, which is very, very interesting. And talking about adult and the death time period over here, they say that Rabbi David was granted British citizenship in 1853. Despite not being fluent in English, he maintained traditional, let's say, the clothing and the manners of the Jews of Baghdad, but he wouldn't be so worried if the sons of his would assimilate and would actually, let's say, utter it. Yes, that's very interesting. Now, David, once again, he's going to also go on to build a synagogue, a very nice one, in Fort, I think it's a region, also in the Baikula. He also built a school, supported a research institute in mechanics, a library, and the sanatorium in Paris. Now, Mr. Sasson was aware of his important role as a leader of the Jewish community in Bombay, and worked, let's say, to awaken a sense of Jewish identity among the Bnei Israel, and especially in the Cochin communities. He donated a chair to Hebrew studies to the University of Mumbai, where quite, let's say, a significant, reasonable amount of people from the Bnei Israel community studied over the years. Now, I think the Sasson, let's say, by his son, in parenthesis, and the David Sasson Library in Mumbai was already named after him, so he worked to establish the Magen David Synagogue, which opened, I think, in the year 1865. Very interesting, 1864 actually, to be precise. Now, he passed away in 1864 and was buried in the courtyard of the synagogue in Paris. Now, Sir Albert Abdullah continued his father's legacy, and all that Sasson's families in the world are attributed as descendants of Uncle Sasson, with that of a Sasson family. Very interesting enough. So friends, this is very interesting, very featured length article here with different kinds of hashkafa, and very, very good. Yeah, so reading over here from the Wikipedia website, so we see that he passed away in the 1864. He was buried in the courtyard of the synagogue, I think Pune in France, that happens to be, and very, very interesting. I think his son was Abdullah Albert Sasson, and other places will illustrate encapsulate the picture of the person, the great rabbi, or the place that he lived in. I think in India he's got a place, and the David Sasson Municipal Library building in Mumbai also happens to be. So that is a very interesting. Also, I think there was a hospital called the Sasson Hospital, and that was, I think they've got as many as 1,500 beds. I think it was formed in the 1857. Possibly they moved locations on a couple of times. So friends, we're community here. We're learning about famous rabbis this year. If you descend from any of the great rabbis we're speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information. And if you feel anyone will be interested in watching these videos, share these videos also to other people, so other people can watch it and part of it and enjoy it. So wishing you all well, take care, and have a great day.